Hi girls, Ms. Gasca here. Today I'm going to be going over English 2 Semester 2 Week 1 Activity 3.1. So, this activity is called Previewing the Unit. Our learning targets are to preview the unit for the big ideas and new vocabulary and analyze the skills and knowledge required to complete Embedded Assessment 1 successfully. So our learning strategies are QHT, marking the text, predicting, and graphic organizer. Let's get started. So to begin with, making connections. In this unit, we're going to continue exploring culture by looking at communities in conflict. Many cultures around the world are in conflict today, with both modern and traditional influences affecting how cultures change. As you read Chinua Achebe's novel, Things Fall Apart, you will closely examine the Igbo culture and the changes it experiences through the eyes of the novelist. So, let's look at our essential questions. Based on your current knowledge, respond to the following essential questions. One is, how might a culture change when it encounters new ideas and members? So think about the way that different cultures shift when new people join them or new ideas come to play in that culture. What happens? What if that person is a key player in that culture, becomes some type of a leader? How does that culture shift or change to reflect that? The second one is, how can an author use a fictional character to make a statement about culture? So think about how characters can have a culture of their own, and think about how an author can use that to make a statement about that culture. I'll give you an example. The Hate U Give is a good example of an author using a fictional character to make a statement about culture, which is in this case that we should do something about police brutality in the Black community. And also that we need to speak our voice when something happens that we witness that is wrong. So that's an example of how an author uses a character to make a statement about culture. Now, for the developing vocabulary section, it wants you to go back and look at the QHT, the questioning, heard, or taught pieces that come from this unit's vocabulary. I'm not going to have you do that, so we're just going to move on to the next part. So, unpacking Embedded Assessment 1, researching and comparing pre- and post-colonial Igbo culture. So, we're going to use the highlight tool in the comment section here to demonstrate what the things are that we need to do and what it is that we're supposed to do, the action that we're supposed to take. So here it says, your assignment is to examine, so this is a verb, to examine one aspect of tribal culture presented in Things Fall Apart. So that's one of the what's. So one example of tribal culture. I'm going to go ahead and change this color so that I can distinguish my do's from my what's, okay? And I'm going to do that for each example. And then its significance to the Igbo culture. So that's another thing that I need to examine. So the verb to examine goes with both of these things that I'm marking in pink, okay? And then the other thing we need to do is compare and contrast. So that's another action that we have to take, right? We have to compare and contrast how, oh, whoops, I'm in the wrong tab. And then we're about to find out what we have to compare and contrast, okay? So here's another action. And then we have a what? How that cultural aspect changed from pre-colonial to post-colonial Nigeria. And I'm going to go ahead and change that to the color that I've set for my what, okay? So then it says you will create. So here I have another verb, another do, right? Create. And then I have my what. What is it that I'm creating? I'm creating a presentation that reflects my research. So I'm highlighting that and I'm putting it in pink. So here I've color coded for you guys so that you could see what it is you're going to have to do, and what it is, and what the actions are. The actions that you're going to have to do and the things that those actions go with, okay? So you're going to need to know about various certain topics, and I'm going to create a list with you guys right here at the bottom for those topics. So we have to know tribal culture as is presented in, oh whoops, I guess the italics button doesn't work the way I want it to. Things fall apart. That's one thing we're going to have to know. We're going to have to know how tribal culture was significant to the Igbo community. We're going to have to know how to compare and contrast, which most of us already know how to do. We're going to have to know information about pre-colonial and post-colonial Nigeria. And we're also going to have to know how to create a presentation and how, let me scroll down a little, and how to conduct research. And you see how I pulled each of those things directly from what your assignment says. So those are the different things we're going to have to learn how to do within this unit by the time we get to the end, where you're going to have to do this embedded assessment. So what we're going to do is move on to activity 3.10, and we're going to do this activity within this video too. So this one's called Previewing Embedded Assessment 2 and Creating a Tableau. And the learning targets are 1, to identify and analyze the knowledge and skills needed to complete Embedded Assessment 2 successfully. 2, reflect on concepts, essential questions, and vocabulary. 3, to analyze the roles and relationships of characters. Our learning strategies are skimming and scanning, summarizing, close reading, and role play. So, making connections. In the first part of this unit, you have been reading the novel Things Fall Apart and analyzing how a writer develops a story and its characters. In the last half of this unit, you will continue reading the novel and will also read about informational text to help you set the context for the novel and learn more about its author in preparation for writing a literary analysis essay. So, all of that has to do with the book that you haven't read yet at this point, so we're going to keep going. These questions are the same questions that we were just asked. So, I don't know why the outline was structured to have 3.10 directly after 3.1 when it has the same questions for the essential questions. So we're just going to skip these two. And we're going to go down to unpacking embedded assessment. And we're going to do the same thing that we just did with the highlighting, the actions, and the things that we're going to do with the actions. So I'm going to go to my comments again. I'm going to get my yellow highlighter, and I'm going to find my actions in this embedded assessment. Your assignment is to write, so that's our verb, write an analytical essay, so that's our what, an analytical essay about Things Fall Apart. So I'm going to go and change that to pink again. All right, I'm going to close that, in which you examine, so I'm going to highlight that because that's another action. We're doing something, we're examining. What are we examining? A character's response to the cultural collision caused by the introduction, introduction of the Western ideas into Igbo culture. So that's the what, okay? I'm going to go ahead and change the properties there. The color needs to be changed back to pink to show that that's the what part. Okay, I'm going to close that. And then it says, in your essay, analyze. So that's another action we have to do, okay? So I'm going to go to my highlight again, analyze. What am I supposed to analyze? How the collision challenges the character's sense of identity. So that's another thing I have to highlight in pink because it's not an action, it's the thing that we're supposed to do the action with. And explain, that's another action. How his response shapes the meaning of the work as a whole. This is probably going to bother some people, so I'm going to go back and highlight this how to. Because I know I got some people who are perfectionists. Okay, so now I've highlighted all of my information. I'm going to go to the bottom like before, and I'm going to type the skills that I'm going to need to know. For one, I'm going to need to know how to write an analytical essay. I'm going to need to know how to examine a response. I'm going to have to understand a character's response to the cultural collision of Western ideas in Igbo culture. I'm going to have to know what those ideas are. I'm going to have to analyze how, I'm going to have to know how to analyze. I'm going to have to understand how the collision of cultures challenges the character's sense of identity. So I'm going to have to understand the character's sense of identity as well to know how it's being challenged by that culture. I'm going to need to know how to explain. I'm going to have to know how to identify the meaning of the work as a whole, so that I can explain how his response shapes that meaning. Okay? So I have all of my different things that I'm going to need to know for the embedded assessment, and now I'm going to scroll down. It says, using the following graphic organizer to begin Okonkwo's family tree. Write in the names of 3 of his relatives, adding details to each. Now, you're not going to necessarily be able to list those people now because you haven't started reading the book yet. But keep it in mind that you're going to go back to this activity later on and fill in those squares. Don't worry about this part because it involves working with your group. That's not something we're going to do. But here at the bottom, we are going to... This is Okonkwo's family tree. So at the bottom, we're going to explain how the Igbo culture was highlighted in our family tree. So we're going to ignore the part with the tableau because that's the part where you're working with the group. I'm sorry about background noise, by the way, but you are going to continue to explain the aspects of Igbo culture highlighted in the family tree. All right? I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye for now. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I'd be glad to help you, lend you a hand. All right, that's the end of English 2 Semester 2 Week 1. See you in the next video.